Good morning and welcome to yet another awesome session of Mindful Living. We truly appreciate your taking out the time and joining the session today. And I promise you that you will definitely find something which is of value to you in the next 60 to 75 minutes that we are together. Please type why if you want to become healthier, happier, and wealthier. Please type why if you would like to reduce your stress, become happier and wealthier. Thank you, Anjana. Anybody? Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you, Sunil. Then, friends, you are at the right time, at the right place. And however, before we begin, there is one risk factor I would like to share with you. That is that you will actually start feeling happier, become richer and wealthier, even if you follow one thing that we share in the session today. It's a very powerful session. I have tried to keep things simple, but that does not take away from the power of the message that is there. The content is extremely well researched and tried and tested over the years. The books that I'm going to refer to in the session today have sold millions of copies and have helped a lot of people. So that is what the program today is based on. How to become, to gain an understanding and of how rich keep getting richer. We often say that rich keep getting richer and poor keep getting poorer, and there is a reason why that happens, and that lies in the simple habits uh, that people follow. And if you pick up any one of these and start working on them, it's my promise to you that your life will keep getting better and better. This session today is the second one in the series of financial peace. The session we did last weekend was about understanding income and expenses and how it is not our income that determines our financial future, but our spending habits. So that was the focus of the last session. In case you would like to attend, watch the video of the last session, please visit the YouTube channel of Mindful Living. We will be sharing the link in the chat. You can go there and watch the video to get the perspective on what we shared there. Financial planning is an extremely important uh, aspect of our life. Most of the lives we spend earning money, but we don't spend even a couple of hours managing it. If we work 10 hours a day, in a month we work for over 200 hours, but many people I know don't even spend 2 hours in managing their money. And it's not only about others. That is how I was during the 25 years of my corporate career. Kept earning money and kept spending it without really paying much attention. It is only recently that I have started understanding financial management, personal financial management. By the way, I'm an MBA in finance and a cost accountant, but that was all about how to manage money for the corporates, not so much for my own self. And that is what I'm going to be sharing today. And I would also like to share a disclaimer. I'm not an investment advisor, and I'm not going to share today any advice on what you should invest in. What I'm sharing here is few personal principles that I have used for wealth creation and wealth protection, which have worked well for me. And that is in the spirit of sharing, I am conducting this session. My name is Ashish Kumar, and I'm the founder of Mindful Living. I started Mindful Living community when the COVID struck, and in the first month of, which is April, first month of lockdown, few of my friends reached out to me and requested me to conduct a session for them on mindfulness to help them deal with the challenges, deal with the stress and anxiety that the lockdown was causing. One thing, so I conducted a session of mindfulness over a weekend. One thing led to the other, and over a period of time, we have grown to be a very vibrant community of people who are committed to learning about living consciously, practicing it, and becoming healthier, happier, and wealthier. we don't advertise about the work we do. The only way you can join this community is when you are invited. You please click on the link that we'll be sharing in the chat to join our community in case you are not already a member. And also watch the videos on our YouTube channel to check out the awesome content that we put out every weekend. I worked, as I mentioned earlier, I'm an MBA and cost accountant, a fellow of Life Management Institute, worked in senior management positions in the corporate sector before starting Mindful Living, which is a leading organization in the area of coaching and training using mindfulness as the base. Whatever I am going to share today, I would urge you not to believe me. Do your own research, try it out, and take extensive notes during the session so that you can derive full benefit. Please don't be distracted, because what we are going to be sharing can literally transform your life and your future generations. So that is very important. The session today is divided into three sections. First, we will do a couple of minutes recapping what we did in the previous session, and then talk about wealth creation and wealth protection. Before we begin further, I would like to ask you a question. What, in your view, is more important, wealth creation or wealth protection? Please type WC if it is wealth creation, or WP if you think it is wealth protection. And while we are pausing here, we will also be happy to hear from you any expectations that you have from this session today. What would you like? Wealth protection, wealth creation. Okay, okay, okay. Both, Sunil, very well said. Wealth protection. Okay, fair enough. We will see. We will see. Good. So as I mentioned earlier, the session is based on the advice and the wisdom shared by many people who are very wealthy. Warren Buffett is a self-made billionaire, one of the top 10 richest people. And he says the most important investment that you can make is in yourself. And I compliment you. And you should be grateful to your own self for taking out time this Saturday morning and making this investment in yourself, in educating yourself about financial management, which on about personal financial management, which nobody in the school does. I studied in the formal education system for about 17, 18 years, but none of those years they talked about, how to manage my own money, which is something which is a great miss, which is what, Robert Kiyosaki says. Academic qualifications are important, but and so is financial education, but school system is missing on one of them. So it is very important for us to educate ourselves, and I compliment you for taking out time to educate yourself on the financial aspect. And what I'm going to be sharing is also drawn from Dave Ramsey, who is an amazing, amazing guy in the area of personal financial management. He made his first million when he was very young, and then he became bankrupt, and then he came back, and he's a multimillionaire now. Amazing advice on personal financial management. He says, and this is the first sentence here, the winning at money is 80% behavior and 20% knowledge. This is something which was a game changer for me. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a MBA in finance and a cost accountant, and I thought I knew all about managing money. But what I didn't realize was what I knew was the technical aspect of money, not so much about the behavioral aspect. And when it comes to wealth creation, it is actually behavior. And it is very important for us to take charge of our own behavior and take responsibility for our own money, rather than pass on the responsibility to somebody else. Sometimes we pass on the responsibility to our wealth advisor, sometimes to our relatives. So the husband will say, my wife manages it, or my CA manages it. Sister will say, my brother manages it. Parents will say, my son manages it. Somebody else is managing it for us. But what is important is we invest some time in learning about personal financial management and start paying attention. Nobody else is going to make you rich. It is our own responsibility to learn and follow that advice, practice that advice, and become richer and wealthier. The second thing which Dave Ramsey says, which I found very interesting, is what to do isn't the problem, doing is. So many of the things that we are going to share in the session is probably you something already you know, but what I hope to make a difference is sharing how I implemented it in my life, which is what I did in the previous session also, and how you can implement in your life and start becoming richer and wealthier. And he says we buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like. And this was another game changer for me. I went for a training program where they taught us to, they made us to repeat this statement multiple times. Thank you for sharing. So this is, whatever opinion people have of others, others have of me. So, you thank them for whatever they're saying to you, but I care dash, dash, dash for what you are sharing. So I trained myself to stop looking at myself from the viewpoint of others, but started living my life according to what I want to achieve in my life. So I have talked about this earlier many a times, and if you would like to look up my videos on goal setting, which I did earlier, you will see that I have been setting my goals and achieving them for the last 4 to 5 years, and not living my life not according to what others think, but what I want. So last session also I mentioned that I don't have a car, and that does not bother me because I don't link my image, or I don't have a need for getting validated by others basis the car or the vehicle I drive. So I've stopped looking my life in terms of from the eyes of others, but living it from the what I want to achieve. So that is something which is very important and a game changer. And following these things, my life has been getting better and better over a period of time. Couple of years back, I used to live in Gurgaon and work in Noida, and the commute used to be 3.5 hours every day. Today, I work less than number of hours every day than what I used to spend in commuting. Still, I make more money today than I used to make working a full-time corporate job. My wealth has also doubled in the last 5 years. And it is following these principles that I'm going to talk about today. First, we will recap what I discussed in the previous session so that you have a context to what we are discussing. And then we will go on to talking about wealth creation and wealth protection. The number one thing which I did was become a minimalist inspired by Sudha Murthy and Kishore Bayani, uh, and stopped borrowing. So in the last 5 years, I have not borrowed any money except for the first year when I took a loan on my LIC policy to fund my expenses for 1 year, and that gave me a breather as I was building my business. Otherwise, I don't borrow money to spend. I don't borrow money to buy car, no credit card, nothing. The other thing which I learned from this very fascinating book, Latte Factor, is small amounts of money saved can make you a millionaire, dollar millionaire. So in this book, Latte Factor, David talks about that if you drink 2 cups of coffee less, you can become a dollar millionaire in your lifetime by investing that money. So the point is, we don't realize that saving small amounts of money can make a big difference. And we did a calculation in the last session that even if you save 100 rupees less, if you save 100 rupees every day, and invest that, over in a single lifetime, over a period of 20 to 30 years, you will have a corpus of 1 crore rupees. Imagine saving 100 rupees a day and that accumulates to a corpus of 1 crore. So that is the latte factor. That is about living below your means, which is what Thomas Stanley talks about in his wonderful book, Millionaire Next Door. Normally, the image of a millionaire that is shared with us is somebody who has a flashy lifestyle, drives fancy cars, lives in a big house, and spends a lot. But in this seminal book, Millionaire Next Door, Thomas Stanley says that the actual millionaire is quite the contrary. They live below their means. They drive second-hand cars. They live in small houses in not so rich neighborhoods, and so on and so forth. So this is something which I learned and practice. And the next one is automate savings, which is about which I call the golden rule of personal finance, which is income minus savings is equal to expense. So you first put aside the money. If you get 100 rupees, put aside 10, 20, 30 rupees, and then spend the balance. Most of the people normally spend and then they save whatever is remaining. Turn that equation around and it will create a lot of prosperity for you. The next one is credit cards. Stop, absolutely. I've got into a debt trap using credit cards. Maxed out my credit cards a couple of times and then took personal loans to settle them, and so on and so forth. Since July last year, I'm completely off credit cards. And the last one, which is a very important one, is about return on investment and return on savings. A lot of us are focused on what is the returns my investment is generating, but we don't pay as much attention to what is it that we are saving. And a person earning 1 lakh rupees saving 10,000 rupees, and a person earning 50,000 rupees saving 10,000 rupees will have the same financial future. The person in the first case, the person has 10% rate of saving. In the second case, the person has 20% rate of saving. So it is not what you earn, but what you save that determines your financial future. So those were the things we discussed last time. Coming to the next session, which is the section which is about wealth creation, we will move on to that. But before that, I'll pause to see if you have any questions or comments from what we've discussed so far. You can type in the chat or unmute and speak. We are a small group, so feel free to share. Anything you liked, anything that resonated with you, anything you would like to understand more of. Thank you, Sunil. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Okay, friends, we'll have other opportunities to share. Stay engaged. And we now move on to the next one, which is wealth creation. And we are going to talk about two concepts, assets and liabilities. There is a comment. Okay. Two concepts, assets and liabilities. And let us understand this in a little bit more detail. Asset is something that we own. That is a very basic definition. What Robert Kiyosaki says is, it is something that we own and generates cash. If it does not generate cash, he says it's not a valuable asset. And there are two types of assets broadly. One is the physical asset, like a house, which you can touch and feel, or commodities like gold and silver. And there are financial assets like shares, mutual fund, fixed deposit, and insurance. There are advantages and disadvantages of investing in physical assets and financial assets. Physical assets are less liquid. So it is once you buy a property like a land or a house, it's relatively difficult to sell them off. There is no market, ready market. There is a negotiation. There is a lot of legal work that, paperwork that needs to be done. For example, this house that we live in now, we were trying to sell, but we could not sell because of a minor legality that was there. So good, we could not sell because we live in the same house now. But I'm just sharing a problem. This happens with many people. The person who signed, and the many challenges which happen. You can speak to any lawyer, and they will tell you the kind of challenges which happen when you try to sell a property that you've bought. It looks very attractive, but to buy, and a lot of people come and say that, so these are the advantages, but equally difficult to sell at times. Financial assets are liquid. You can buy and sell them almost instantaneously. Mutual funds, if you sell, you get the money in 1 or 2 days. Shares, you sell, you get the credit immediately. Similarly, fixed deposits also are very liquid. You can break the deposit and get the money. While they are liquid, the challenge is, people tend to break it because it's very liquid. So most of the AFDs will not get renewed because some expense comes up magically when it is about to mature, and then you'll end up breaking the fixed deposit and spending the money from them. So physical assets less liquid, but the advantage is it helps you hold your capital precisely because you can't sell them off. And financial assets liquid, higher returns, but also the disadvantages, not very supportive, require a lot of discipline to stay the course. So these are some advantages and disadvantages of physical assets. We're going to talk more about which one you should get into and buy as we move along. And then you have liabilities, which is something which you owe to somebody else. So it could be a loan, a home loan, a loan that you've taken to buy a car, a loan to against a property that you already have, loan against shares, loan again for going for education. Education is becoming very expensive, so a lot of people take loans to support their education. Then personal loan, like I mentioned, I took to liquidate my credit card debt and the credit card. The loans have different rates. Some loans are good, some are not so good, and that is what we're going to talk about. Understanding the difference between what is a good debt and what is a bad debt. Anything which increases your capability to earn is considered a good debt. So if you're taking a loan to uh, pay for your education, it's a good debt because it increases your ability to earn in future. If you're taking a loan to buy a house, it's a good debt because it creates an asset, and it gives you a place to stay, which and it appreciates. So it's a good debt. Bad debt is something which you are just using borrowing to pay off your living expenses. So you're using credit card to fund your expensive lifestyle. Very bad debt. Or if you're taking a debt to invest in stock markets, I would say it's a bad debt because the stock market is a fluctuating market, and sometimes you could borrow more, the shares you invest in tank, and you could be in big trouble, and people then end up committing suicides. So understand the purpose why you're taking a debt and be very, very careful. If you're taking a debt to fund your lifestyle or expenses, it is a very bad thing to do. And, to my mind, debt and death sound very similar. Don't borrow too much. Generally, not borrowing is a good idea. Then coming to the next thing, if you already have debt, how do you go about reducing your debt? And there are two strategies, two ways Dave Ramsey says we can approach this. One is classify all your debt from the largest value to the smallest value. And second is classify your debt by the amount of rate of interest that you're paying on each item. Highest rate of interest to lowest rate of interest. And then you can choose which way you want to go, whether you want to attack the highest value one or the highest interest rate one. There is no right or wrong. It depends what you feel works for you best. One advice he gives is uh, normally we go for the biggest debt first, but he says maybe it makes sense to go even for the smallest value debt first, because as you pay that off, it gives you more confidence that, my debt is taken off, is paid off, and there is one debt less that I have. So it gives you that confidence to pay off bigger debts and more debts in future. So that is what he comes. But otherwise, you can classify debt by value, by interest, and then make your own strategy around this. So typically, a credit card debt is the highest interest rate debt. It is about 3% per month compounded, so it comes to about 40% compounding. This is like Chakradhari, Chakravarti. It's like it can get very easily get you into a trap. That is what credit card debt is. So that is what we have discussed basically so far, assets and liabilities. And now I will share with you some very powerful concepts which can help you create wealth. And the first one is asset allocation. We discussed about liquid assets, physical assets, and I mentioned how do you decide how much to invest in each category. So typically what I see is I have friends who only invest in real estate. And that is because either their parents have done that, or they have a friend circle business, or they invest only in stock markets, or they invest only in insurance. So there are families who have only been investing in LIC. There are families who are only investing in one class of asset versus having a mix. Or some families will only do FDs. Some families will only do gold. But the best thing to do is you have a mix. And the reason for that mix is that different asset classes fluctuate in value, and they are inversely related. Like normally, when the interest rates are high, stock market will be low, or when the stock market is high, the property may be low, or they may be correlated also. Or so and when the whole world is in recession, gold may be rising. So different asset classes behave differently at different points of time. Rather than be in one asset class, it is better to spread your assets over have little bit of each. So normally a financial advisor will say that you have 5 to 10% of your assets in gold, or you should have so much percentage in equity, so much in debt, so much in insurance, so on and so forth. So you can go to a financial consultant to get the exact percentages for the life stage that you are in. But it is a very good idea to be not overweight in any one category, because that can be a recipe for disaster. If you are only in stocks, and the stock market tanks like it did when September 11 happened, or when the 2008 crash happened, or when a dot-com crash happened, then all your wealth can get significantly eroded. So be very careful. This is a very solid strategy, distributing your investments across different asset classes. The other thing is to understand that you have more assets than liabilities. If your liabilities go up and you don't have assets to back it up, then people go bankrupt, or the people commit suicide. Like recently, a couple of years back, we had the case of CCD founder committing suicide because he had borrowed so much, and then there was not in a position to pay. So be very careful whether you have more of assets or more of liabilities. Understand what is an appreciating asset and depreciating asset. I talked like, for an example, car is a depreciating asset. Typically, if you buy a brand new car and the moment you drive it outside the showroom, the value drops by half. So, why take a loan and acquire a depreciating asset? Because your loan will remain the same, or kind of it will decrease, but your value decreases much faster. So you will keep paying loan and you will not have any asset to back it up. Like I mentioned earlier in this book, Millionaire Next Door, Thomas Stanley says that most of the millionaires drive second-hand cars because they understand that car is not a good investment. Good debt, bad debt, we have already spoken about. And the last thing on this I would like to discuss is net worth, which is asset minus liability. Most of the times, most of the professionals and corporate professionals are only focused on their income. how much am I earning? Am I earning more than my neighbor? Am I earning more than what I did last year? What is the increment that I got? We are very, very, very focused on our earning. We are not as focused on building assets. But if you look at the list of richest people in the world or the wealthiest people in the world, they are ranked not by their income, but they're ranked by their net worth. So the Fortune 500 list or the Forbes topmost billionaires list will rank billionaires by the net worth they have or the assets that they have. So please start focusing more on building assets. And that is how the rich keep getting richer, which is by investing in their assets. So this is the diagram which is shared by us by Robert Kiyosaki in his book Rich Dad Poor Dad. And this simple concept is most powerfully explains how the basic difference which is there, which is that rich people use their income to create assets which create income. So they create a virtuous cycle. Their income they invest in buying assets which create income. Understand, I shared this earlier also. Robert Kiyosaki said that assets are those which create cash. So the rich people use their income to buy assets, which generate income, and they keep getting richer and richer and richer because with income every time. So you have 100 rupees, you invest 30 rupees or 50 or 100, whatever, into generate assets that generate income, and then that income will keep increasing. The poor, on the other hand, how do poor keep getting poorer is because they consumed their entire income, and at times they will take loans to fund their income, to fund their expenses. So if somebody earns 100 rupees and spends 100 rupees, he'll be poor all his life. And he will get poorer if he starts borrowing to fund his expenses. So that is very simple and very basic fundamental in how rich keep getting richer. And I'd like to share one example of a group. My friend is the head of learning and development of a group which is in a small place in Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh rather. And these two brothers, they started chick farming. And, they had chickens, and the chicken laid eggs. And when you have eggs, what do? You either eat them or you hatch them. And so they decided to have hatch more. So two chickens, they gave, 4 eggs, 4 eggs gave more chickens, and they just kept multiplying that. And they're worth more than 12,000 crores today. In one single lifetime, by investing and reinvesting, they have become worth 12,000 crores. And they are not an isolated story. There are many such stories where people have learned the concept of investing and reinvesting. So whatever income they get, they keep reinvesting. That is what is the story given in the richest man in Babylon also, that whatever you earn by way of interest and dividends, you reinvest that percentage also. And that is how people keep getting richer. So I'll stop here to see if you have any questions or comments before we move on. If this is making sense to you, please type MS in the chat box. If you have a question, please unmute yourself or type in the chat. If it is making sense, please type MS in the chat box. Thank you, Sunil. Thank you, Shivram. Thank you, Rama. Thank you, Smita. That's an interesting question. Anybody would like to respond to Smita's question? I have a view, but I'll be happy to hear. It's Let me ask you a question, Smita. Is investing in children's education going to increase their capability to earn? Thank you, Bhavna. Smita, my question to you is investing in children's education going to increase their ability to earn? If it's going to increase their ability to earn, then it's an asset. Uh, Good question. Thanks for asking that. And then let's move on to the next part, which is what Warren Buffett says, that if you don't find a way to make money work while you're sleeping, you will have to keep working till you die. So this is what rich people do. They earn and they invest so that they keep getting dividends and passive income or from their business, active income from their businesses, so that whether they're working or on a holiday, they keep making money. Now we move to the final part of the section, which is wealth protection. And I asked this question to some of you, what is more important, wealth creation or wealth protection? It was a trick question. Both are important. But what most people miss is, the protection part. They have a solid machinery going on for creation, but they don't take enough care to protect their wealth. And this is the best and the simplest. Like I said, I like to keep things simple, uh, but that does not take away the power of the message. This pyramid is considered to be the most powerful way of planning your money. I visited Egypt about 15 years back and saw the pyramids in person, and I have been fascinated by them since then. They are the most stable structure on the earth, been around for 5,000 years. Nobody, nothing has happened to them. Similarly, the financial planning pyramid, the base of that financial planning pyramid is protection. Protection for your life, protection for your health, protection for your disability, protection for your home, and so many other things. Creating an emergency fund. So if you remember, I mentioned a couple of minutes back that when I started my business, I took a loan from my LIC policy and created an emergency fund which would run my household expenses for 1 year. So for 1 year, I didn't have the worry to pay my bills, and I used that time to scale up my business. So creating an emergency fund, which could be 3 months, 6 months, 12 months income, is very, very important. Buying life insurance is a very, very important thing to do. If you do not have life insurance, or if you have life insurance, still reach out to somebody and ask them for advice, because one of the challenges we have with life insurance is that most of the people, even if they have life insurance, they are underinsured. uh, by a rule of thumb, you should have 10 to 20 times of your annual income as your life insurance cover. And you don't need to buy expensive insurance. You can even have an inexpensive term insurance, which is equally good. So if you're earning 10 lakh rupees, your insurance should be 1 crore to 2 crore rupees. And that could be entirely term, which will cost you like 10, 20,000 rupees, as inexpensive as that. But what it does is it ensures that your family will have money even if you're not there. And it's not that those things don't happen. They happen. I have shared about this earlier that I lost my father at a very young age, but fortunately, we lost him was unfortunate. But fortunately for us, his friend had come and sold him lots of insurance, and we used that money to buy a house and settle my family. We became homeless. We literally became homeless. We were not on the streets, but we were homeless because the house we used to live in was provided to us by my father's employer. And when my father passed away, we didn't have a house to live in. So we shifted like 3, 4 houses till we bought our own house. And this, I'm talking of 4 houses, I'm talking about in a span of 6 months. We just kept moving from relative to relative because you can't stay too long in somebody's house. So it's very important that you buy life insurance. You can go online and search. You want some advisor, you can send me a message and I'll put you on to some people who are trusted, who will give you good advice, and you can buy. Otherwise, you can do online, go to Policy Bazaar, go to any good insurance company and buy your life insurance. That is first, because it ensures that, so whether today I am there or not there, it's not going to make a difference, because what life insurance does is it creates, it replaces your income generation capability. And that is what a lot of rich people, wealthy people do. They buy a lot of life insurance because they use it as a tool to transfer wealth from one generation to another generation. If I unfortunately die unexpectedly, then the wealth generation will stop. But if I have life insurance, then my wealth generation will not stop, and when money will get transferred to my to the next generation. So this is something which rich, smart people do, buy lots of life insurance. So that is first, that is the foundation. I'm still at the foundation level, and that's where we're going to spend a lot of time today. And the second thing is, so the one risk is dying too soon. The second risk today, and which is a very real risk, is living too long. So normally when I ask people, how long they are going to live, I get very interesting answers. So let me ask this question to you. How long do you think you're going to live? Please type in the chat. Or what, not you, but maybe generally people will live, these days. 70, 75, 80. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, 75, 80. Sunil says 100, right? Now, what if I were to tell you that you may not die only? Okay, and this is not fantasy. This is what science is leading towards. Okay, and that is why a lot of life insurance and insurance policies today are for a lifetime. So earlier life insurance or health insurance will be till 80 years, then they made it till 100 years. Now they are till lifetime. So as long as you live, you will have your insurance. And the reason for that is the medical advancement is taking place at such a rapid pace that it will be possible to print our body parts using our own cells in 20 to 30 years from now. So, you can use your own cells to print your kidney, print your liver, or print your heart, and, put it, if your heart, kidney, liver once wears out, becomes damaged, you can replace it and you can possibly keep living as long as you want. So that is the other risk, living too long. And so we need to plan for that also. So you need to buy annuities. You need to plan. I'm not going to too much into that. That's the space of financial planning. But you need to be aware that living too long also is a risk that you need to plan for. The third risk is, I'll come to that, which is disability. And Sarthak is a dear friend, and he's a speaker on Mindful Living platform. You can check out his video, his session video in our YouTube, Mindful Living YouTube channel. And he's an alumnus of IIM Calcutta, and he lost his one arm in an accident. So this third risk is disability. So first risk is dying too soon. Second risk is living too long. And the third risk is disability. So please reach out to your financial advisor and ask for advice on, how you can protect yourself from these kind of disasters. And the next is health insurance. Protect yourself and your family. If you're working, then your employer might be providing, or if you have your own business, you may have a group insurance. In case you don't have, or even if you have, look at the whether you've got the right coverage or not. So that, look at health insurance, and then look at protecting your assets, house, car, etc. And the last one, which I would like you to pay attention to, is cyber security insurance. which, and this is my own screenshot. I got this message yesterday that my MX American Express account has been locked because somebody tried to, was attempting to enter into that account, right? So cybersecurity threats have become rampant these days for many, many reasons. So please buy cybersecurity insurance also, which is available. So that is the last thing I would like to talk about. And now I'll pause to hear any questions or comments from you before we do a quick recap of what we have discussed so far, and then we will bring the session to a close. You may keep your cameras on. It facilitates interaction. Thank you, Fahad. Thank you, Sunil. Anybody would like to share any takeaway from today's session, anything that resonated with them, that appealed to you, that you liked, that you will practice, or you would like to practice, or you feel is a challenge? All right. So while we're waiting to hear from you, I'll move on and do a recap of what we have discussed, the important points, and then we'll bring the session to a close. So what we've discussed is physical assets and financial assets. Physical assets typically offer lower rate of return compared to financial assets, but they are more solid, less liquid. Financial assets are liquid, which is both an advantage and disadvantage. It's a disadvantage if we are not disciplined enough to this, because there's always a temptation to liquidate the financial asset and take care of the expense or the unexpected expenses that have come up. So we discussed about physical and financial assets, and we discussed about how asset allocation is extremely important in creating a long-term solid financial strategy. Most of the people tend to be overweight in any one investment class of assets. So some people are only in real estate, some only in gold, some only in FDs, some only in shares. But what is important is you have a mix across all the asset classes so that when the market tanks or goes up, you can take advantage of both. Second, we discussed about asset being more than liability. If your liabilities are more than assets, one will might become bankrupt, and that is a risk which we have seen many people facing in the recent past, with some tragic consequences also. Then we talked about net worth, which is the true indicator of wealth, and that is how the richest people in the world are ranked. So maybe it's Jeff Bezos right now, who's 160, $200 billion, Elon Musk, Bill Gates. They are all ranked by the net worth they have, not by the income they generate. So if you want to become rich and wealthy, if you want your family to be wealthy, focus not so much on your income, but focus on your net worth. Focus on creating assets that will generate even more income, and the income that comes, keep reinvesting in that. And that is how rich keep getting richer. We learned from Warren Buffett that education is the best investment, and I think you should truly, truly appreciate yourself for taking out this time on a Saturday morning to invest yourself about the basics in the personal financial management, which nobody talks about, which very few people talk about. And the four concepts that we have covered in the last session and today: income, expense, asset, and liability, is the basic ABCD of personal financial management. Robert Kiyosaki says if you know these four things, then you will understand personal financial management. Everything else is an offshoot of this. So like we have letters from which we make different words, income, expense, asset, and liability are those letters which will help you understand the personal financial management space. Then we earned about keeping our expenses low, only saving first before we spend, having multiple sources of income, understanding the difference between active and passive income and good debt and bad debt. Passive income is that income which keeps coming even if you're not working, and it is important to create those sources that will ensure that income keeps coming to us. So that brings us almost to the, should I start investment in shares? Should I buy a property? So Sunil, that's a very good question, and it is very difficult for me to respond to you without knowing what your overall investments are. Um, but we can discuss, or maybe you can connect with some financial advisor. If you have one, it is good. If you don't have one, you can send me a message, and I'll connect you with some that I personally use. Already practicing except investment in shares. Okay, okay, yeah, yeah, okay. Sure, thank you for that. And I must share this. The whole session last time and this time is about wealth, money, income, expense, asset, and liability. But there is this amazing book, Happy Money by Ken Honda, and he has done research. He's written this book after researching 12,000 millionaires, and he says at the end of it that the true wealth is actually not the money that you have, but the relationships that you have. And that is why this community that we have becomes very, very powerful, because we come together, we form relationships, we are together, we support each other. Or your network that you have, your family, your friends, they are your true wealth. So please focus on building your relationships. Also, these are some of the books that I would like to recommend to you in case you are serious about being a wealth creator and also about being a wealth protector. In case any one of you would like to reach out to me for some advice on how to practice these things, I do coaching, so you can connect with me, and I'll be happy to do schedule one complimentary coaching session for you. And or if you would like to invite me to address the employees in an organization, you can reach out to me on WhatsApp or on my email, and I'll be happy to support there. So on that note, I'll bring the session to a close and open this up to questions, answers, comments. Thank you, Sunil. Appreciate that. Thank you, friends. We bring the session to a close. Have a wonderful weekend and look forward to meeting you next weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashish, for the great session.
Thank you, Rama.
Thank you, Ashish.
Thank you. Thank you, Fahad.